energy, vibes, inspiration. I'm Renee Reed, and this is Tech Rap Queen. Royal Court. It is yet another edition of Tech Rap Queen. I am your hostess, your queen, the Renee. And if you hear the excitement in my voice, if you see the excitement in my face, that's because this edition of Tech Rap Queen, I get to sit down and talk to another queen, a bigger queen. You know, we toss the name boss around a lot, but let me tell you, this is an individual, an incredible pillar in the tech community that truly is a boss. And I am just so excited to be in her presence, be in her midst, and just hear her words of wisdom, the gems that she's about to drop and share with the Royal Court. I am so excited to welcome my guest today, the Dr. Nashlie Sephus.
Hey,
Hello, hello, hello.
hey, thank you so much for having me. I appreciate all those kind words. I'm like, who is she talking about? I can't wait to introduce whoever this is. Thank you though.
It is you. It is you, the queen, the pillar, all the things, and so much more. I could keep going on, but I want the royal court to hear from you.
Thank you. Thank you. I appreciate you so much.
Royal Court, you listeners, you can go to her LinkedIn profile. You can see all the amazing companies. Before we talk about the company that you sold, your tech path, and all the things that you're doing there, let's talk about the Beam path.
Okay.
You, again, just an amazing career doing all this wonderful stuff. And you start this nonprofit and you intentionally root it back in Jackson, Mississippi.
Right.
Why was that so important for you? And I think this is just really critical for people to understand.
Yeah. So, if everybody leaves and takes their knowledge and resources with them, then what's left? Who is there to sow back into the same people and community that sold into me? And so I think it's always important, and I tell this to everybody, even people who are of different ethnicities, it's important for you to go back and give back to the community that helped to shape you. If you think about it, there are not too many self-made people. There's always somebody that helped you along the way.
Mhm.
And remember that when you're giving back to others. And so for me, most people would say, okay, you could be anywhere in the world. When I take off vacation, I'm going back to Jackson, Mississippi, and I'm working on the beam path. I'm working on building the 12-acre tech hub that we're building. I'm working on strategizing. I'm going to talk to middle school kids and show up and speak and do workshops. And I use my vacation for vacationing as well. But most people will say, why are you even here? Jackson, Mississippi is not known for technology. Well, no, we're known. Mississippi is known as the fattest state. We do have that. We're proud of that. We have some great food, but I want to bring the technology to a place like Jackson, Mississippi, because I believe the same people like myself, they're there. They just need an opportunity, and so I wanted to be the person to help give that. And who else? Someone that's been in the tech industry as a startup CTO who had a successful acquisition, worked in corporate at Amazon, also, doing this nonprofit, which led me to say, how can we scale more and purchase land in downtown Jackson and be able to create this tech hub to be able to host more programming? And it really goes to how do you control the narrative. I want Jackson, Mississippi to be known as not just a place that has the most densely populated Black demographic, but the most densely populated Black demographic that is also a tech hub. And that's my mission.
I literally got chills hearing you talk about being that not taking the resources and just leaving, but going back and pouring back into the community that helped support you and changing the narrative of not just being known as X, but also being known as
Yeah. And
Y.
I say, you know, Jackson is majority black. Some people, they forget about that. Now the state as a whole, you have a lot of other type of people as well, and a lot of diversity. But even within the city that's majority black, there is very, very, very little black ownership in terms of land and property, especially in the downtown area. I think there may be one other plot of land in the downtown area that is owned by a black person. And then I have, apparently I'm the first black female or black person period to own this much property in downtown Jackson, which is the capital city of Mississippi. And so of course I was not aiming for that. I was like, okay, somebody needs to do something. Everybody's sitting on this land, and these outside investors and these other folks are just owning this property that's been mostly abandoned all my life, run down, pockets that just have been that way. And I'm 35. Pockets that have been that way for 30 years,
Wow.
and nothing's happened. And so a lot of people, unfortunately, they wait on somebody else. Nobody wants to be the first. They wait on somebody else to come and do something. And so I'm like, okay, well, this has to happen. And if not now, then when? It has to happen. And so that's was a catalyst for me. And I'm hoping that, and I'm seeing that a lot of other things are happening via this chain reaction.
If not now, then when? If not me, then who?
Exactly.
And really just taking up that mantle and saying it's got to be done. So the purchase goes through in 2020, right? But it's been a process
Oh yeah.
to get this. What was that process like? And you don't have to go through the whole thing, but the blood, sweat, and tears that you have put into this and why it is so important.
Yeah.
What was that like?
Yeah. So there's a lot of challenges. Okay. So a lot of times I tell people, as an AI expert, if I were to set up shop in Palo Alto, Silicon Valley in California, and say, I'm going to put my table here, a little lemonade stand. I'm going to give away free AI advice. I've sold a company to Amazon, and I'm going to talk to you for free. We would probably have people lined up around the corner to come and talk and say, oh, well, I'm going to take advantage of this, and I would too. However, when I do something like that in my community, even sometimes in Atlanta, and I'm based in Atlanta. I'm back and forth between Atlanta and Jackson, Mississippi. But sometimes in our communities, if we do the exact same thing, no one will show up. They'll probably ask, why would I need to be talking to her? What does AI have to do with me? And so it's a matter of, not only they say if you build it, they will come. That's not always true. You have to build it, and you have to convince them why they should be coming. And so it's multiple problems and multiple approaches and methods that we use to try to convince people. When we first started out with the Bean Path, we were meeting in the local libraries around Jackson. We've been doing this for over 2 years, and we helped over 400 people so far. Just doing it one Saturday out the month. We said we're just gonna get some tech volunteers and tech experts and just set up shop. It was a struggle. People weren't showing up. People were wondering, what's this going on over here? Y'all got some food over there? And so we were like, okay, let's get some food. Let's get some drinks. Let's get something for kids to come and be engaged. We started bringing VR to the space. We also started upping our advertisement. 9 times out of 10, some of these people that we're targeting are not going to be on social media. You got to put advertisements up at churches, on the telephone pole, at the bus station. And so about halfway through the first year, we started opening our doors, there was a line of 20 people waiting to come and ask us for tech help questions, bringing their laptops, bringing their Alexa devices, and people had ideas for tech companies. We actually have a few companies that have matriculated through and are very successful now that we've helped. And so it's just wonders. It does wonders to see the impact that something so simple as volunteering your time or a few hours one Saturday out the month can give to people. So we have a total of 7 buildings. We're adding on 4 more buildings, 16 acres in downtown Jackson, Mississippi. And so the next step becomes, okay, now that we're under contract, financing. Naturally, and I've purchased a house before. I went through that process a couple times. So you go to the bank, you show them how much money you got, and they give you a loan. However, this is not the case. What happens when you do big development projects like this? I often think about one bank in particular that they kind of strung me along for 8 months, and then came back to the table and said we're not going to do this loan. The reasoning was very unclear. It didn't matter how much money. Sometimes it just doesn't matter how much money you got. If a bank doesn't want to work with you, they're not going to work with you. And I found that out the hard way. I also tried to go with black banks, for example. A lot of times they didn't have the resources to assist with a project this big, or they just weren't set up in terms of having the capacity to properly manage or go through this. I even had situations where I would show up and the loan officer would laugh in my face like, what, you're trying to do what? That's not going to be successful here. And then you also had people that didn't know what a makerspace was. They didn't know what 3D printers was. They didn't know about entrepreneurship incubators, and they just had not seen that in this city of Jackson, Mississippi. And so many challenges, and it's not even necessarily just black and white. It's even in our own community, challenges with this project. Ironically, I will say that we ended up doing an owner financing deal and acquired the property, which since then our property value has gone up. A lot has been happening. Like I said, it's been a chain reaction once the announcement was made. And those same banks that did not want to work with me, that laughed in my face, are now knocking at my door to say, hey, we want to give you a loan. And so I had to figure out, okay, what happens next? What do you do with that? But it's just so ironic. I finally understand why it's so difficult for people in general, but especially Black people, to own property.
Let's now talk about having a company being bought by Amazon. I think it's an amazing story in itself in how it came about. And as a UX researcher and understanding need finding and what people need and designing things for people, let's talk about PartPick in
Mhm.
terms of how it started and how it came about.
Yeah. So, and I just want to say about the UX side of things. Like, people everywhere I go, they seem to underestimate the importance of the user experience for any type of technology. And a lot of that went into our work at PartPick, and I know the work you're doing is amazing too. And so I just wanted to say that. But basically, PartPick was a startup company that was started in Atlanta, Georgia, by a young lady named Jewel Burks. She's awesome. Google her. She's done some amazing things. Is and still doing amazing things. And so she was the CEO of the company, and I was the CTO of the company. Very interesting idea. Jewel came up with. She was working at a parts company, parts warehouse, in customer service, and people would call in saying, "Hey, I need this part. It's like the size of my hand. It's a thingamabob. It's black on one side. Can you help me find it?" And then she had the idea, what if we could automatically recognize the objects in the picture, and then we would wouldn't have to worry about wrong parts, and they would always get the part right. And so that's kind of where I came in. She had this idea, and she was looking for someone to help build it. And so I was presenting at a conference in Boston in May of 2016, and I was talking about the part pick technology. And as soon as I came down the steps, the guy from Amazon was in the audience, and he approached me and he said, "Hey, we're really interested in what you're talking about up there. Can we talk some more?" And I gave him my card. And then, sure enough, after a few months of back and forth, due diligence, negotiations, and I'll make it sound a lot easier than what it was, we ended up selling the company to Amazon and joined Amazon in November of 2016. And I've actually been at Amazon ever since.
And correct me if I'm wrong. Correct me if I'm wrong.
Mhm.
PartPick, a Black female owned, operated, founded company, was the first Black company acquired by Amazon.
I believe it was what we say is the first Black female tech company acquired by Amazon. But I would venture to say it's probably more than likely the first Black tech company. But we just a couple people have reached out to us saying that there may be one or two, but not female led. So yes, that's what I would say.
Whew. I mean, again, I've always been inspired by your story. Hearing it again, I always get goosebumps because that's not necessarily what you all were setting out to do. You were really just setting out to solve a problem.
Exactly. I'd always say that, I didn't know what a startup was. When you tell me I'm gonna start a startup, people give you money for something that you haven't built yet. I didn't know that. I was like, who do that? Where they do that at? And so, but no, this is a real thing. This has been happening in Silicon Valley since the 90s. And I'm like, oh, okay, well, nobody told me. But anyway, so she was just like a game changer, a disruptor. And I was glad she brought me along for the journey. When we were acquired by Amazon.
Having you on Tech Rap Queen is so important because I don't think people truly realize, especially even in tech, out of tech. One, this startup was happened in Atlanta. The narrative, the stories are always about, the sweethearts of startups in Silicon Valley all the
Hmm.
time, with the tech bros or things like that.
Yep.
It was Black women, right? Someone who had an idea kind of coming from a space, being a customer service, seeing the problem, wanting to improve the customer and the user experience,
Hmm.
and then helping connect the dots. And it all happened not in Silicon Valley, but happened with people who just had the skill, the desire, the vision in Atlanta.
We were the first engineering team Amazon ever had in Atlanta, Georgia. And we were asked many times, why won't y'all move to Silicon Valley? Why are you in Atlanta? Why are you in the Southeast? These things don't happen here. We're like, well, no, I mean, they don't happen, but if everybody leaves, no, they won't happen. So we're staying right here. We believe in the people here. We have, bright people in the Southeast, just like we have everywhere else. We just lack we lack the opportunities sometimes. And so all the more reason why we want to stay and be a part of this ecosystem that is still budding, especially for diversity in tech.